last night we saw at the listening room, it was all related to your book and your sister Lydia.
Yeah.
And the book is called Tragedy Plus Time. But is this the show that you put on last night? Does it have its own name?
Yeah, it's called Happy Place.
Happy Place. That's right.
Happy Place.
And then, so what's cool, I think, is that you have this whole side of you that helps people through your story, and it's so well crafted.
Thank you.
It's really is truly amazing. And but then you have your regular comedy act and your own writing and just your own, that's its own thing. But you have these two lanes.
They're definitely
so talk about
separate.
having these two channels of your brain.
Well, it's interesting. When you go through something like that, and you're on stage as a career funny man, and you don't feel funny, it's hard. But I didn't talk about my little sister much at all and what I went through at all on stage, ever.
Yeah.
And then but I'm a writer. I wrote for a newspaper for 5 years.
Yeah.
I always was a writer before I was a comic. And so I just started...
Even your wiki says writer. It doesn't say comedian.
Yeah, I consider myself a writer first. If I'm a comic, it's because I'm a failed writer. But I started writing about it and just like putting out, I wrote this one piece and it was very cathartic and I cried and wrote it out and then I kind of put it out online because I just did and it like exploded. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, clearly there's something here, and then it felt good to write. So I just kept writing and I wrote the book. And I thought, and the book is all about what I went through. And I very much didn't write the book with the goal of, this is going to help people. Like, I wrote it to help myself.
I think that's a great distinction, if you don't mind me popping in, because
No,
I just think I think in society there's a lot of things we do to help, and we send kids to like go paint houses in the third world, and it's a lot of cool church groups, and that's all great, but it's not really what's necessary. And I think if you just the mindset of the book, I think I just connected on that because I think it's great when people aren't thinking of you're just writing and sharing from your own perspective, but not with this prism. It's like, oh, how can I help people with
For
this
sure,
book?
and
because it's not as organic as
No, and it feels opportunistic,
Yes.
and like you're seizing on a market for grief.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to write this. A literary agent approached me. He's like, you should write a book about this. I read the thing you wrote. You should write a book about it. And I'm a writer. I've always wanted to write a book.
Sure.
I was like, of course. And so I 100% processed a lot of things by writing it. I didn't sit down at the computer and be like, I've gathered my thoughts. Mm-hmm. Let's go. It was as I wrote, I found my thoughts. And honestly, I mean, the only benefit that comes out of it, I've learned, is just this is an honest depiction of mental illness and suicide and what it does to a family and all of it.
And you would expect...
And all you can do is be honest.
That's my point, and sorry to jump on the back of that, but it's just seeing the show last night, it's so raw and honest, but at the same time, you've done brilliantly in the writing and performance of it to give it the levity that it needs, to give people a breath to collect themselves, because I think these issues are the hardest things for people to understand, mental illness and depression and whatever. Then is the domino that starts off where eventually it could lead to suicide.
Right.
Is the most complicated, I think, thing of all things to sort of wrap your head around, and the collateral damage, which you do such a great job of describing.
Well, thanks.
Is something that, but just as a stage show, and watching you perform it. It really was that roller coaster in such a positive but empathetic way, and I think you've brilliantly danced around all these issues that you even talk about on stage.
Thanks,
Is
man.
it optional? Can I have permission? I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Or, can I talk about? You have these, sort of a permission with your sister.
Sure.
To kind of move the ball forward.
Well, and truthfully, like, Lydia was so damn funny.
Yeah.
So funny and dark, clearly, and just freakishly intelligent. Like, my older sister is so smart, and I'm decently intelligent, but Lydia just ran circles around us.
Yeah.
So
was she the youngest of you?
She was the youngest. So to do anything less than perfect or anything, God forbid, cheesy or self-helpy would be such a disservice to Lydia. With the book and with the show, my goal is to like make people understand her and get to know her a little bit and like celebrate her and in a sad way keep her alive a little bit. Like this was an amazing person that mental illness just took out, and it sucks, and here's what happened.
This Full Exposure podcast episode has been made possible through the support of Metro Health, University of Michigan Health, and Dr. Peter Hahn, who believe that creativity and the arts are essential to a rich, healthy, and fulfilling life.